Well, it is a pleasure that you are here with me today. This is our bonus episode of Student Science and Stakeholders. Today, we are going to be hearing from Rosa Fitzgerald. She is a longtime member of the grant. She's been with us since 2001. She is a professor in the physics department at the University of Texas at El Paso. Her expertise is atmospheric physics. She has always been the UTEP lead investigator for the grant, and she has been with UTEP for a long time. Rosa, welcome to the second series of Student Scientists and Stakeholders.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here, Tia. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We always start by just saying, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you became a professor, how you got on this journey to become an expert in atmospheric physics.
Okay, I actually became a professor by progressing through the academic stages of first being an assistant professor, then associate, and finally a full professor. At each of these progressions, I had to prove my worth to be promoted. It has been a long path that started from a very young age. And actually, I did my undergraduate in Peru, but unfortunately, during the time that I was studying in the university, there was a lot of political turmoil and strikes here, strikes there. And I kept on fighting because it was my dream, so I follow it.
That's amazing. Many of us are met with adversities, and it's good to hear you overcame them. But first, for the audience, for most of us, we're not even sure what atmospheric physics is. So what is it, and how did you become an expert at it?
Okay, so we are in a very diversified and very interesting field, and we all come from different backgrounds. Mine is physics, and my perspective and analysis is from the standpoint of a physicist. So I do both modeling, and I also perform monitoring of pollutants, etc., because I need to check my models against actual data. Now, what started my interest in science was that I always wanted to understand the underlying principles that govern nature, the universe. And actually, my interest started at a very early age as a girl of 5, 6 years old, when I admire Spock, remember from Star Trek? Yeah, I admire him for his logical mind, and I was fascinated by the study of science itself. So I did my undergraduate in Lima, Peru, and then I came to America. I'm a U.S. citizen now, and I did all my graduate work here in the States.
So tell us a little bit about what might be your most famous, if that's the best word, maybe the better analogy to use is your most referenced study that you might have.
In other words, what kind of studies I perform? I'm not
sure. Sure, absolutely.
Oh, okay. Well, I perform modeling in both use measurements. And what I like about doing this type of work is that I try to do the models from first principle calculations, from not so much a statistical standpoint, which sometimes it's imperative to do that. But I try to first approach it, if it's possible, from a prognostic stand view and from first principles, and try to understand the phenomena itself. And I have participated in both the developing of models and very many activities. I like to think that I wear different hats.
Yes, I know it. I know as a lead investigator, you have a lot of responsibilities. So can you tell me a little bit about your experience with NCAS and NCAS-M, which now is spanning, 2 decades, which is an incredible amount of time to dedicate to this center and its mission?
Right, right. Well, NCAS, NCAS and then NCAS-M keeps me in contact with scientists with different specialties, all working in atmospheric ocean research and communications, like yourself, like Terry Adams-Fuller. So gives me the opportunity to develop working relationships with leaders in their fields. And with time, we have made excellent teams, become friends. So we're in a way kind of like a family. And very importantly, we have been able to provide funding and opportunities for the students, which is the first reason why we are all here.
It's good you would say that, because that's where I want to kind of go next. I really want to focus on more on your NCAS experiences. Is there one memorable moment? Every time I think about Vernon Morris, for example, I always think about him, and arrows on those cruises and out in the waters for weeks at a time and doing incredible work. What are your most important memories, being on this grant for so long?
Okay, yes. Of course, I participated in air rows, not myself, but my students. My students went to the air rows expeditions. Oh, and they learned a lot and they had a lot of fun. But my recollections are, first of all, interacting with many different scientists, social scientists like yourself, Terry Adams, etc. And what I am very privileged is that I have had the opportunity to meet on a first name basis with scientists from NOAA, from different universities, which are leaders in their particular fields. And before the pandemic, we used to meet at conferences, at meetings. I kind of miss that very much. So I guess down the road, we will be resuming, and there have been several meetings already since the pandemic. But pretty soon, when things get a little bit under control, I myself will be traveling back to join people at the meetings. So my most memorable moments have been joining these wonderful people at meetings.
I have to admit, those have always been the most eye-opening moments for me. Again, as one of the social scientists on the grant, I usually spend my meetings just in awe at the language and the discoveries and the connections. And I always feel like I'm back in school, in science class, because I sometimes struggle to understand what's being said, but I do always appreciate the passion and the commitment of all of the scientists across the grant, and how much focus is put on not only their research and making a difference, but making a difference in the students who they work with. And that's kind of where I want to guide my next question. Can you talk a little bit about mentorship and how that has impacted you and the students you've worked with over the years?
Yes, I have had the privilege to mentor numerous students over a period of 20 years or so with NCAS, NCAS-M, both at the undergraduate, master's, and PhD level. And subsequently, I have had the satisfaction of seeing them succeed in their careers. And that, for an educator, that's the topmost wish. So we have also traveled together to meetings and representative both our universities and NCAS, NCAS-M. So that has been an incredible experience, I would say.
I have to admit there are moments when I learn of one of our kind of NCAS students, ascending to the ranks of a NOAA employee that warms my heart every single time I hear about it, because that's essentially, one of the pillars of what we do. And to see it happen and to have a little part in that, I know it brings you joy, because it brings me joy every time I hear about it. So I wanted to ask you a little bit, because you talked about atmospheric physics and pollution, and we talk so much about the impact of minorities moving into the STEM fields and how important it is. So what do you think the impact of NCAS and NCAS-M has been to the STEM field over the last 2 decades?
Right. So my principal activity and enthusiasm is encouraging minority students, female students in the STEM fields. Actually, when I first started at UTEP, I was the first female professor they hired in my department. And so I'm also very pleased to see that it's changing with time. We have now many female professors, and I like to see both minorities and female students succeed in their chosen career. So I would say motivating them and see them succeed is most satisfactory.
Well, congratulations on being a trailblazer. I did not know that about you, and it's wonderful to hear. And I will tell you, Rosa, whether you know it or not, or whether you think about it every day, there's this whole idea that in order to be it, you have to see it. And so your position, your commitment to students, your ability to be successful in atmospheric physics, in the STEM field, and at NCAS-M, connected to NOAA, all of that makes a difference. Every time you're at a conference, or every time you publish a paper and someone sees your name, they're able to, Google you and understand the impact of you being around so long. And it is such a pleasure to talk to you, and such a pleasure for you to be a part of the grant. I can tell you that whenever we did have meetings, you lit up the room, and you were so passionate about what you did. And I too miss those moments, because what people don't understand is that our center cuts across 13 universities, and all over the country, including Puerto Rico. And when you have that amount of experience and technical know-how and commitment in one room, it's infectious, and really, talks about interdisciplinary research, and talks about what we can do to impact the world really happens. And that's not to say that it can't happen online, but there is a moment of gathering that creates a different atmosphere of sharing and commitment and really brainstorming that I hope we too can get back to. So any final words, Rosa?
Oh, I'd just like to say that it has been a privilege to have been part of NCAS, NCAS-M all these years. We were the very first center, one of the very first ones, and there's so much talent, and I am a strong believer that we have yet many milestones to accomplish, and we have an incredible leadership, and I look forward to the future and participating with all the NCAS-M activities.
Well, I agree with you on that. I think we have a bright future. I think our work is far from done. And I look forward to working with you in the future, Rosa.
Likewise. And thank you so much for having me here.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us today on our last episode of Student Sciences and Stakeholders for our Series 2. We were thankfully joined by Dr. Rosa Fitzgerald, a professor of the physics department at the University of Texas at El Paso. We encourage you to Check us out on YouTube for all of the episodes for the first series as well as the second one, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at NCAS News. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be in contact soon.
Thank you, Tia. Bye.
Bye.